Welcome to My Town, sponsored this week by Creative Corner. Our special guest is Owen Rumelt. He is a long-standing member of the West Hempstead Public Library Board, and here is Owen with Izzo Zwirin.
Owen, thank you so much for joining us this week.
My pleasure.
If I can get a little bit of a history about you, how long have you been involved with the West Hempstead Library, and how did you come to be in that position?
I was appointed approximately 12 years ago to fill a vacancy after the resignation of Martin Gensler, who has been a long-term member of the Board of Trustees. I had expressed previously to one of the board members, Ralph Reisman, my interest in serving in some capacity with regard to the library, as I saw a well-functioning library as an important part of any town. Library serves a lot of purposes, and I wanted to help in whatever way. I saw what they were doing when they built the new library, the actions that were undertaken, and when Martin resigned, I was asked to apply for the position, interviewed with the board, was selected as a trustee, and then ran for my first 5-year term the following year. So I've been on the board now approximately 12 years.
Terrific. So we're coming at this from about a week, maybe a little bit more, after the budget for the 2022 fiscal year has passed. I want to get a little bit of information about the budget. What exactly goes into determining what budget you are proposing to the community?
Well, first of all, I want to thank the community for their support. I know that the school, unfortunately, had some problems with getting their budget passed. We were very fortunate in that our budget passed, albeit a little lower margin than we're used to, but thankfully, and really thanks to the public, we were able to get our budget approved. The budget is reviewed on a yearly basis. We put it in front of the voters, normally starting in approximately January or February of each year. We sit down with the current year's budget. We look at our expenditures. We try and figure out those areas where we are coming in under budget, determine whether or not the reasons we are coming in under budget, and whether or not we should be budgeting at the same amount for the following year. We are very mindful of the economic situation out there. We are mindful of people's pocketbooks. And so we try and show fiscal responsibility. We are limited by the cap that the state puts out. We do not have the right, as the school does, to seek an approval from the voters for a cap. We can, the board can, admittedly, go over the cap if necessary, but we really want to avoid that. The cap is there for a reason, and just because the cap is there doesn't mean we have to meet that cap. We look at our expenditures in all areas. There are certain expenditures over which we have no control, state mandates in terms of the retirement costs, health insurance costs. There are other costs that we have to put aside for. Some are subject to a collective bargaining agreement with our staff. But those areas in which we can potentially cut, or those areas where we feel we want to expand, we put together a budget. We have meetings that are available. The public is invited to the meetings to go over the budget. And once we feel that we have come in with numbers that are appropriate in terms of our expenditures and what we expect to get in, we approve the budget and put it out for the voters to vote on.
So what are some of those expenditures that we're talking about? What is covered by the budget?
Everything. The electricity, the cleaning, I mean, the basics of running a building. We have a lovely library, but it does cost to run it. Heating, air conditioning, the staff. We have librarians. We have various other positions in the position. We have director. We have, and then you have the books. We buy a lot of books every year, but it's not only the books. We have, for example, membership passes for many of the museums and other parks. We have CDs. We have videos. People still take out CDs. People still take out videos. We have subscriptions to podcasts. We have periodicals that people still get. We have, for example, I don't know how many people know it, but Consumer Reports, for example. If you want to go on the Consumer Reports website, normally it's behind a paywall. But through the library, you can go onto the library's website and go onto Consumers Reports and get all the information on any products you want to buy. So everything that goes on in the library, programs that we run, some of them have a small fee, but by and large, those are paid for by the library.
Interesting. Are there other subscription-based content out there that is available through the library?
There's a lot of subscription-based content. There's a lot of stuff having to do with genealogy now. A lot of things are shifting, and it's not so much that we have the periodicals on paper. I mean, the world is changing. We realize that, but a lot of times it's databases, and so we get access to databases. As I said, people still are taking out CDs, so we still have those also. But that's an area where we may say, okay, so let's say we paid X We set aside X for CDs last year, and we bought, but we didn't spend as much as we thought we would, or we had budgeted for. Do we really need to budget for that? You know, how many people are actually using the CDs? How many people are making use of that resource? And so things shift. You know, if we find that we're going to need more museum passes, for example, because some are very popular and we want to have more people be able to get the museum passes, then we may shift money to that line on the budget.
That's funny. When I was a kid, I used to take out the CDs from the library, and then I would upload them to my iPod, and that's how I would get my music.
It's a good thing I'm not a copyright lawyer.
That's right.
That's okay.
So it's weird that I would admit that on camera.
Statute of limitations.
But you did mention some of the digitization of our modern world. Can you tell me a little bit about how the library, its foundation is printed media, but how are we adapting to a digital world?
Yes and no, because now you can go online and you can reserve books. And if we don't have it in our library, you can search in the county catalog and other member libraries of the Nassau County system, and you can reserve a book online. We've gone from a printed newsletter to a digital newsletter that goes out by email, and so that was able to bring down our printing costs. So to the extent we're taking advantage of the modern world, so to speak, we try to use that to our advantage. So we've adapted the shift now. As I said, most people are streaming movies. So is there going to be as much of a need for DVDs? Questionable. Are we going to reach a point possibly where we're going to get certain subscriptions to certain streaming services and make those available? I think we'd have to work out the logistics, because I think Netflix limits you to X number of family members. And, although we are all a family here in West Hempstead, I think there's a limit on family size.
I've also taken advantage of the audiobooks that you have available. So there's another area. There's a temporary download to your device.
Yes.
And allows you to listen to it. It was great for shoveling snow. I want to go into a little bit of the programming that the library involves. Sure. First, let's talk about children's programming. What programming is available now? What programming are you looking to expand to in the future?
I think it's more a question of building upon what we have and making it more available. One of the things I will say, and in fact it came up at this week's library board meeting, where we have the public is invited to attend, and we have at the beginning of each meeting, we have 15 minutes set aside, and you may often go over for public comment. Our children's programming is expanding, but it's a question sometimes of making more of the current programs available, because people find that when they go to register, if the registration starts at 9 o'clock, by 9:01 or 9:02, some of the classes are filled. And so we have programs that are more of like a physical. I think it's Hip Hip Hooray, I think, is one of the programs we have for young children. We have programming from 6 months, starting with 6 months going all the way up. Hip Hip Hooray, I believe, is a physical interaction program and gets kids up and moving in, or has parents or whoever the caregiver is there who's taking the child doing physical activities with the child. We have crafts programs where children are able to come in and make various projects that they can take home. Those are our more popular programs. We had a Build-A-Bear type program at one time. That
was for adults, right?
Yes, exactly. Okay. Yeah, I saw you actually there. But, we're trying different programs. It's more a question of how can we meet the needs of the community within the space that we have. And that's one of the biggest questions and problems that we have right now. We'd like to expand the program.
So I'm glad you asked my question for me. What is the library doing to maybe look into expanding some of those programs?
It's a question of making best use of our space. We look at the programs that we have. A lot of our programs have gone virtual now. We have virtual yoga. We have virtual Tai Chi, I believe. And because of COVID, that became a problem, which freed up some space. But there may come a time when people want to come into the library for programs. And we have a lot of, it should be the biggest problem that we have a lot of competing programs. Now, admittedly, some of the times, the times that we're going to have adult programs may not necessarily be the times that we're having programs for children, but also realize that we have seniors who don't want to be out late at night.
Right.
We're cognizant of that. And so some of our daytime programs for seniors may be taking up, and I use the term loosely, maybe in the same space, I think is a better way to put it, as the programs that we would have for children. We have over years, we've had story time, and that's for the children, not for the adults. But we have other programs for seniors, book clubs, just general civic discussions, different things to get people out and get them involved and as I said, the physical activity programs as well.
Are there maybe education classes for adults, maybe the seniors, on how to use technology? How about for the young adults who never learned how to do their own taxes? Something that I've always wanted to know.
Yeah, we're doing different types of programs. We're trying to do some technology. There's a lot of the programs for adults are more along the lines of, for example, on one hand, meeting the needs of our immigrant population, we have English as a second language. On the other hand, we also have Spanish language programs for those that want to learn Spanish. We've had finance programs over the years. A lot of the programs, as I said, have been adjusted because of COVID and the need to go virtual. But there are different programs for the different ages. And we, as I said, we have from age 6, we have tween programs, teen programs, young adult programs, all age appropriate in terms of the ones that are projects. But we are trying to get different ages into the library because, as I said from the beginning, the reason I got involved in the library was because the need for a strong central library and a strong central community center, which the library serves as, is, I think, very important to the maintenance of a good community.
All right, so we spoke a little bit about the budget and the programming. I want to combine those two. I know a couple of years ago, before COVID, if we could remember such a time, the library was given a $100,000 grant to improve the children's department. So I know we haven't used that yet, probably due to COVID. Is there a plan to use that, or am I wrong about this?
No, you're not wrong at all,
wrong,
and
okay.
that's thanks to the efforts of a number of I use the term the moms. There were a group of young women with young children who came to our meetings a number of times to discuss with us the need for children's programming. And some of them got in touch with Senator Todd Kaminsky's office, and through their work and through the Senator's good graces, we were able to obtain a $100,000 grant to be used in the improvement of our children's room. We brought in an architect. We looked into what we could do to expand the children's room. To expand the footprint of the building would have been cost prohibitive, unfortunately. And so instead, we are using that money to remove some of the books and the area in that area and the children's play area to expand that area and hopefully double the size of it, and to provide more interactive toys and similar products for the children to play with and to expand that area. That's going to take a little time. We're in the process now of doing some other work in the children's room in terms of the carpeting and switching it out for a different type of floor. That has to be done before we can do the other project, but we will be eventually expanding our play space, which was one of the things that people talked about.
Now, does this grant money have to be used to improve the physical space, or can it be used on programming? Are you limited to
it's physical space.
Physical space. It has to be used for that.
Yes.
Okay.
That's my understanding.
I just have one more question, and it's more of a general overview of what a library is here for. How does a library fit into advancing the social and emotional needs of children? And based on that answer, how does the West Hempstead Library plan on attacking that?
Well, I think I've tried to say this evening that we have programs for children to interact with each other, to get together, to use the library as a central meeting place. And I think that helps them with socialization skills. We're hoping, it helps with their physical activity, which is always very good for them. When we were able to have story time, it provides for good memories. I remember when I was younger, I grew up in Eastern Queens and used to go to the Glen Oaks Library and used to be taken there for story time, for story reading. And I think it gives good memories, and it gives you a good foundation for getting used to being in the library for different reasons as you grow up, to see the library as a place to go and to interact with others and to get things out of it, to learn, to read, to help you with your reading and to help you with research and whatever we can do to provide the needs of the community. That's what we're there for.
It's nice. I grew up in a community where the library wasn't such a central part of my life. I'm not going to mention where I grew up because that would be detrimental to that library. But I understand why the need for the library is there. I understand now that I moved to this community where the library is more vibrant than what it was for me, that it's not just a place that I go to check out a book and take it home and read and then bring it back and probably pay a late fee. It's more of a community networking place, a place for children to do what they need to do, for adults to do what they need to do, for seniors to do what they need to do. And I'm glad that we have that space, and I wish you much luck in improving that in the future.
Thank you very much. We're there for the community and hope that they will come tell us what they need.
Owen, thank you so much for joining.
Very welcome.
Thank you very much for joining us. Join us next time at westhempsteadecho.com. To sponsor this and other shows, please reach out to us at sales@westhempsteadecho.com.